Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to the 9 p.m. English News Edition. Here are the headlines. The first Council of Ministers regarding the return of the government. FIFA World Cup Qatar 2022 qualifier Djibouti qualified for the second round. Peace in Southern Sudan, Machar and Kiir met in Juba. Hello and welcome again. Under the presidency of His Excellency Mr. Ismail Omar Guelleh, head of government, President of the Republic, took place this Tuesday, September 10, 2019, the 14th session of the Council of Ministers. The following texts were reviewed and approved. Let's listen to it.
De son Excellence, M. Ismail Omar Guelleh, Président de la République, chef du gouvernement, s'est tenue la 14e séance du Conseil des ministres.
During the 14th session of the Council of Ministers, several bills have been reviewed and approved. For the Ministry of Women and the Family, first question, draft decree implementing the Act on the institutionalization of nurseries and daycare centers. This decree is issued pursuant to the Act on the Institutionalization of Nurseries and Daycare Centers. It aims to strengthen the norms and standards governing the opening and operation of nurseries and daycare centers in Djibouti. Early childhood development structures must harmonize their practices and ensure quality services that contribute to early childhood development. They must take into account the child's psychological and other needs. The standards developed are in line with the prerogatives of preschool institutions in early childhood education. The adoption of this draft decree will ensure good education for young children in public or private structures in an environment that allows them to evolve and develop their capacities. For the Ministry of Labor in charge of administrative reform, second question, draft decree laying down the procedures for carrying out medical checks and the function of the advising practitioners. The draft decree sets out the procedures for the exercise and control and the function of the consulting practitioner. The text provides that in the context of health insurance, medical checks are carried out by medical officers, pharmacists, and dentists, consisting of checking that medical care is properly provided and that medical prescriptions are valid. These controls are required to have access to health establishments approved by the CNSS in order to assess the quality of the installations and the care provided. The objective is to detect possible abuses and frauds in terms of prescriptions, care, and invoicing. In order to carry out its duties, the medical officer should be independent of the management body and the healthcare provider corps. The establishment of medical officers will make it possible to rationalize the expenses of the universal health insurance scheme and contribute to promoting the quality of the care provided. Third bill, the purpose of the draft decree is to amend and complete the decree on the organization and functioning of the National Health Insurance Commission. This project proposes to broaden the missions and strengthen the authority of the missions of the Commission by giving it a central role in the implementation of the health insurance policy. The purpose of this arrangement is to ensure coherence and coordination between the various actors in the implementation of the universal health insurance policy. This draft also specifies that the Commission is required to present an analysis report on health insurance to the President of the Republic and the National Assembly at the end of each year and to propose any adjustments. On the other hand, this project plans to set up technical subcommittees to the technical aspects can be dealt with effectively in a small committee of specialists. The adoption of the draft decree will make it possible to strengthen the National Health Insurance Commission with a view to making it more effective. Fourth decree. This draft decree supplements decree number 2014-156 PR Mitra establishing the Universal Health Insurance Health Solidarity Fund. This financial instrument makes it possible to guarantee health benefits to the most needy, particularly people without resources that are not covered by compulsory health insurance. This project aims to give a leading role to the fund's contributors. The objective is to improve governance to ensure transparent management of the fund. This project unequivocally states that the sole and unique objective of the fund is to cover the health costs of insured persons under the Social Assistance Health Program. The adoption of this project will strengthen social coverage for the vulnerable population. Fifth bill is on draft appointment decree. The following are appointed: Mr. Abayazid Hamad Ali, Director of the People's Palace; Mr. Ahmed Aden Noor, Acting Chief Financial Officer of the Ministry of National Education; Mr. Aden Darar Musa, Prefect of the Dikhil Region; Mr. Musa Aden Migane, Prefect of the Ali Sibih Region; Mr. Mohammed Sheikh Hassan, Prefect of the Arta Region; Mr. Abdul Malik Mohammed Bonaita, Prefect of the Obok Region; Mr. Hassan Dabeli Ahmed, Prefect of the Tijora Region.
For the second part, the Minister of Justice acting government spokesman, Mr. Ali Hassan Badon, reported that several members of the government have shared their missions abroad with the Council. Let's hear it.
Ministry of Economy and Finance in charge of industry. Sixth question. The purpose of the draft decree is to grant the state guarantee granted to Red Sea Power Limited as part of the policy of developing renewable energy and liberalizing energy production. The Ministry of Energy and EDD signed a concession contract and a power purchase contract with Red Sea Power Limited on 19 May 2019. This company will develop, design, and operate for 25 years a wind power plant with a capacity of approximately 60 megawatts in the Gubet, which it will transfer free of charge to the EDD. This guarantee is intended to contribute to the realization of this project. The adoption of this project is part of the diversification of our energy resources. As for the Ministry of Budget, seventh question, draft order allocating 2 parcels of land located in Douda. The purpose of the draft order is to allocate 2 parcels of land with a surface area of 20,000 square meters located in Douda to Djibouti snack industry. The said parcels are intended for the establishment of a food products factory. At the end of the session, the Minister of Economy made a presentation on the conclusion of the negotiations with the IMF on our debt. He presented the revised debt sustainability analysis following the IMF mission in June 2019. Indeed, he indicated that our country's debt is sustainable contrary to what was announced by the previous IMF mission. He stressed our ability to pay the debts contracted. The Minister of Social Affairs and Solidarity made a presentation on the various activities carried out by her department in the context of the fight against poverty, in particular, the Social Protection Program, the Social Assistance Program, and the related cash transfer program. The implementation of these projects has improved the living conditions of vulnerable populations. To this end, it stressed the consolidation of achievements and the continuation of actions in favor of the poorest households. The Minister of Health informed about the preventive and curative measures deployed to counter chikungunya disease. He indicated that preventive actions have been implemented, as well as the emergency protocol for epidemiological surveillance are all entry points. He also reported on progress in the fight against malaria. He also reported on his working visit to Washington, D.C. from 29 to 31st July 2019 and to Ankara from 20 to 24 August 2019. The Ministry of Energy in charge of natural resources made a mission report on his working visit to Egypt from 4th to 7th September 2019.
Djibouti's national team qualifies for the second round of Qatar 2022 World Cup qualification. This qualification comes after the return match against Eswatini in Djibouti, which ended this afternoon at the Mavuso Sports Center Stadium with a draw of 0 everywhere. Thanks to the result of last week's first leg in Djibouti, the Blue Sharks qualified for the first time for the second phase of the 2022 World Cup qualifiers to be held in Qatar. This victory is a statement to the effort made to raise the level of Djibouti's football, which unfortunately failed to progress beyond the first phase of the qualifying campaign. The Blue Sharks prepared themselves this afternoon to draw with Eswatini's team in front of their fans at the Mavuso Sports Center Stadium in Manzini, the second largest city in Eswatini. A victory that restores confidence to the leaders as well as to the players, and from there to all Djiboutians who can now believe in the abilities of Blue Sharks. The event was followed live on national television channel 1 as on the official RTD page by a large audience who shared the joy of the Blue Sharks, some of whom burst into tears. Budget Minister Abdul Karim Aden Sher received today a courtesy visit from Japan's ambassador to Djibouti, Koji Yoneti, who led a JICA delegation and others. In this sense, the meeting was also attended by the Director General of the Africa Development within JICA, Mr. Araki Yasumiji, the Secretary General of the Ministry of Budget, Mr. Simon Mibratu, and the Head of Cabinet of this department, Mr. Id Suleiman Abdi Hadi. Discussion between Budget Minister Abdul Karim Aden Sher and the Japanese delegation focused on ways and means of promoting friendly and cooperative relations between Japan and the Republic of Djibouti. The mayor of the city of Djibouti, Mrs. Fatima Awala Usman, shared a working meeting with the Director General of the Djibouti Social Development Agency, ADDS, Mr. Mahdi Mohamed Jama, accompanied by the Director of Microfinance and the Head of Islamic Finance, as well as the Presidents of the Neighborhood Councils of 3 communes in the city of Djibouti. This meeting is part of the second meeting between the President of the Neighborhood Councils and the ADDS and launches the operation to identify vulnerable households as part of the Islamic Finance Project. Indeed, the neighborhood councils have been asked by the ADDS to target the most vulnerable households in the various districts of the capital with a view to allocating Islamic credit lines to vulnerable families. To carry out their work, the neighborhood council received training on the criteria for selecting vulnerable families as well as the protocol and procedure to follow when identifying them. The Department of Health has intensified health control at all air and land entry points in the country. At the Galileo border crossing, teams of health workers carry out thermoflash checks to prevent any possibility of suspected chikungunya disease. It should be recalled that these surveillance and sanitary control activity are in response to information collected from suspected but unconfirmed cases of chikungunya in the town of Dir Dawa and its surroundings. Thus, this strengthening of control activities follow instruction from the Minister of Health, Mr. Mohamed Warsame Diri, who called for a far-reaching preventive action by calling for greater vigilance at border crossing and at Nagaj Station and Djibouti International Airport. It should also be noted that the agent of the SMUR service has mobilized alongside the quarantine antenna of Djibouti International Airport to intervene for all practical purposes in accordance with the guidelines of the international health regulations. The Djibouti National Institute of Public Health is responsible for ensuring that these enhanced surveillance and control operations are carried out properly, in particular by enhancing intervention capacities at both the preventive and curative levels. And now the little girl you see on the screen at the age of 6 years, who is named Ryan Idris Roble, is wanted by her family. The little girl lost her way from her house at the end of Balbala 3B school. She wears a yellow dress with a red veil. Anyone who can meet her or has information about her is asking to contact her parents by phone 21366948 or 77080831. We regret to inform you of the death of the late Muhammad Isa Dide yesterday at the Sheikho Hospital of Balbala. The deceased pensioner, born in 1956, began his career in education, then at the Sheraton Hotel, and finally at the Djibouti Road Network. Born on 1956 in Djibouti, he leaves behind a widow with 6 children and 4 grandchildren. The deceased was the uncle of the comedian Djibouti Jama Ibrahim, known as Jama Hago. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Moving now on the international news, one dead and two injured. This is the toll of an explosion that occurred Monday in Mogadishu, according to Somali witness and security official. The same is true of the civilians who said they witnessed the tragedy. I was in the area when I heard an explosion sound, then I saw people running in all directions, said Jibril Gal, a witness. So far no claim has been made, but the first suspicions are directed at the Al-Shabaab, kicked off Mogadishu in 2011 by the government, supported by troops of the UN mission in Somalia, AMISOM. This Al-Qaeda affiliated terrorist group is increasing suicide attacks and guerrilla operations with the aim of overthrowing the Somali government. South Sudanese rebel leader Riek Machar arrived yesterday in Juba for his first visit in a year to the capital, where he met with President Salva Kiir to discuss peace and security conditions. Machar, who lives in exile in Khartoum, arrived in a Sudanese plane preceded by two other aircraft carrying a large delegation of about 60 people. Kiir and Machar have not seen each other since a meeting in the Vatican in April, during which Pope Francis kissed the feet of the two men accused of war crimes. Machar's visit is expected to last 2 days. It comes as the deadline of early November for the formation of a transitional government of national unity in a key element of peace agreement signed in September 2018 in Addis Ababa, which includes the appointment of Mr. Machar as vice president, is approaching. This government was originally scheduled to be formed in May, but Mr. Machar, concerned about the security situation upon his return to Juba, was given an additional 6 months to respond. Southern Sudan went into civil war in December 2013, 2 years after its independence from Sudan, when Mr. Kiir Adinka accused Mr. Machar, then his vice president, a member of the Naked ethnic group, of plotting a coup d'etat. The conflict marked by atrocities and the use of rape as a weapon of war. He killed more than 380,000 people according to a recent study, and forced more than 4 million South Sudanese, almost a third of the population, to leave their homes. In South Africa, Nigerians on the move. More than 600 of them have so far declared their interest in leaving the country after a deadly wave of xenophobic violence, announced Nigeria's Consul General in Johannesburg, Godwin Adamu, on Monday. According to the diplomat's media report, a list has been opened to identify Nigerians who wish to enter the fold, but also all those whose businesses have been looted. However, the repatriation operation, which should take place on Wednesday, does not concern Nigerians incarcerated in South African prisons. Airpeace will start the evacuation on Wednesday with the first 320, he said. Xenophobic violence, which began more than a week ago, has left at least 10 people dead, including 2 foreigners, and more than 400 arrested, according to figures provided by South African head of state Cyril Ramaphosa. On Sunday, however, further targeted violence against foreigners broke out in downtown Johannesburg, killing at least 1 person and injuring 5 others. This anti-migrant sentiment in South Africa has provoked a strong outcry across Africa, with some countries demanding the protection of their citizens. This is the case in Nigeria, where President Muhammadu Buhari is expected to meet his counterpart Cyril Ramaphosa in South Africa at the end of September on this issue. At the same time, South African companies were targeted in Abuja in retaliation for the Joburg violence. In the DRC and Zambia, marches have been initiated to protest against xenophobia. However, for the time being, no detailed assessment is available on the identity and nationalities of the victims, nor on the number of foreign companies that have suffered as a result of this violence. Surrealist dead end in Westminster between shame on you and silence it. Surrealist, that's the word what comes to mind when we talk about this last session of the British Parliament before it is suspended for 5 weeks. MEPs said no to the organisation of early parliamentary elections called for by Prime Minister Boris Johnson. And now there is a parliamentary blockage until 14 October, 2 weeks before the deadline for leaving the European Union. This situation is ubiquitous, all the more so since the head of government has confirmed that he does not intend to ask Europeans to postpone Brexit, despite the vote's extremism on a law in Parliament. Legal action, resignation on order, Boris Johnson has not explained how he intends to do so, because the law normally requires it. An additional Trump drama at Westminster, the emblematic Speaker of the House of Commons, John Bercow, has announced his resignation. These conservatives had held this position for 10 years. He denounced the degradation of this parliament and said, and that is how the parliament session ended. The conservative MEPs left the bench under the shame on you of the oppositions. The new European Commission is taking shape. The President-elect of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, confirmed that she has all the names needed to form her team. The issue now is the distribution of portfolios. Rumors are spreading in European corridors. Rather than taking bets, College of Europe Professor John Worth only points out that commissioners from the large member states of the Union generally have large portfolios than small member states. On the other hand, all will be heard in the same way by MEPs. Ursula von der Leyen had set herself the first step of achieving parity in the College of Commissioners. His team will consist of 13 women and 14 men. Germany has made climate policy a priority in its man-made, but in order to achieve its objective, it may first be recalled. Upon the restriction, the institution and ambitious climate policy will require a combination of several factors, starting with an energy policy, an industrial policy, and even an investment policy which reflect this promise. Before that, the commissioner designate will have to prepare their hearing, a step that is not a formality. Some candidates have already been rejected by the European Parliament. The states concerned will then have to review their copy and propose a new name. And this is it for this news. Thank you for watching us and have a wonderful night.